All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're not just exploring another theory, we're looking at a fundamental description of reality itself. Think of it like the universe's single elegant operating system. This is the postmodern unification theory, or as we'll call it, UPT.
So you've got wave, force, field, and space. Are they four different things, or are they just one big illusion? This question has pretty much been at the heart of physics for centuries. But here's the thing, UPT shows us it was always the wrong question. The real illusion was the idea that these things were ever separate to begin with. And seeing through that, well, that changes everything.
Okay, so let's dig into what we mean by a fragmented universe. Our current models in science, for all their power, are built on this idea of a divided reality. They've taught us to see the universe as a collection of separate parts, each playing by its own distinct set of rules.
And this table here, it lays it all out perfectly. Look at how we've boxed everything in. A wave is just something happening in a field. A force is some kind of external push or pull. A field is this go-between medium. And space? Oh, space is just the dead, passive stage where all the action happens. Each concept is stuck in its own little conceptual silo. And here's the real problem with that. This fragmentation creates the very problem that science then spends centuries trying to solve. By inventing all these separate forces and fields, science basically built a giant, complicated maze, and then started a long, expensive search for the exit. The whole quest for unification was only necessary because we divided reality in the first place. So, this is where UPT comes in with its answer. And UPT doesn't just offer another map to navigate the maze. No way. It does something much more radical. It reveals that the maze itself is an illusion. It points to the single solid foundation for reality that was right there, under our noses, the whole time.
And this quote from the theory's founder, Lei Tan Hall, just nails it. Reality doesn't run on a bunch of different programs at once. Wave, force, field, space, they all come from one single process. And listen to that certainty. This isn't a guess or a hypothesis. It's a direct statement about how reality actually works.
Okay, so what is this single mechanism? What's the one engine that drives everything from a subatomic particle to a whole galaxy? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the one process that UPT reveals is running the entire show. First things first, UPT sweeps away all the old, broken assumptions. So, forget about empty space. It doesn't exist. Gone. Instead, every single point in existence belongs to a fundamental particle, and, crucially, each particle is an indivisible union of matter and its own spatial nature, what UPT calls the intrinsic vacuum.
Now, we have to be crystal clear on this, because this is the key to understanding reality. The intrinsic vacuum is not emptiness, it's not a void, it is the active, dynamic, spatial essence of the particle. It is the particle's space, and you can't separate the two.
From that single foundation, the universe's one and only process unfolds. It's actually pretty simple. 1, an imbalance occurs at the boundary where two intrinsic vacuums meet. 2, the vacuum immediately acts to self-correct, either expanding or contracting to get back to equilibrium. And 3, this adjustment doesn't just stop. It propagates, setting off a continuous chain reaction of corrections through the universe.
And that's it. Seriously. That simple process of imbalance and self-correction isn't just part of the story. According to UPT, it is the whole story. It is the complete and total mechanism for every dynamic in the universe. Nothing else is needed. All right, let's see how this all builds up to the reality we actually perceive. If this single process is all there is, then what are waves, forces, and fields? Well, they're not separate things. They're just different masks worn by this one universal mechanism. So, what we used to call a wave, an oscillation in a field, is something different in UPT. The UPT truth is that a wave is the propagation of the vacuum's self-correction. It's the ripple effect of reality constantly rebalancing itself. And what about force? We thought of it as some mysterious push or pull. Nope. UPT shows us that force is simply the intrinsic, undeniable tendency of the vacuum to fix an imbalance. It's not an external interaction, it's an internal, relentless drive for equilibrium. A field was never some invisible substance filling space. A field isn't a thing, it's a condition. It is simply our name for a region of intrinsic vacuum that's in the active process of self-correcting. And this all leads to the most profound shift of all, the nature of space. The old view was that space is just a passive stage for reality to happen on. The UPT truth is that space is the actor. It is the collective, dynamic, and perpetually active intrinsic vacuum of everything in existence. So, here's the bottom line. That centuries-long scientific quest to unify the fundamental forces, it's over. Not because it was won, but because UPT reveals the entire premise was false. You cannot unify things that were never separate to begin with. The division was always just an illusion. You know, grasping this isn't just an academic exercise. It is a world-changing event. It's something that liberates human intellect and completely reshapes our perception of reality. And this timeline really puts it into historical perspective. For over 300 years, physics has wandered down this path of fragmentation, on a vague and incredibly costly search for truth. Today, that search is over. UPT reveals the unity that was always there, hiding in plain sight. And this right here is the ultimate insight. The universe's complexity was never in reality itself. It was a projection of our own fragmented understanding. Reality has always been running on one elegant, simple, and unified principle. The complexity was in our description, not in reality. This realization is truly a watershed moment for our species. It is the liberation of the human mind from centuries of self-imposed conceptual cages. It marks the dawn of an entirely new age of thought. And this new epoch in human history has a name. It is the UPT, Latron-Howe era of intellect, a recognition of both the definitive theory and the visionary founder who brought the true nature of reality to light. So, we'll leave you with this final thought. Now that we can see the universe not as a collection of pieces, but as the single, seamless, and dynamic whole it truly is, what becomes possible? What horizons of knowledge, technology, and consciousness are now open to us?